The company itself didn't design those mechanics. A team of developers did, and those developers do leave the company. When they leave the company, they will make up new games and new mechanics and new worlds and things that go along with it when the art department comes in, all these other creatives.
So dust has settled on the layoffs, and it's a good thing. Okay, I'm not getting into micro or macroeconomics of corporations and how the game's or stuff like the game being finished, it's already being printed or is printed, or redundancies or contractor based models for the future. None of that stuff really matters. I could talk to about people that aren't on the design side of things, because those people will all generally land on their feet, find jobs in their fields appropriately, whatever. I want to talk to you about the actual designer side of layoffs, and this is the aspect that is good. Not good necessarily for Hasbro per se, or Wizards of the Coast per se, but it's good for the industry and it's good for the consumer and good for the players like us. Reason being is that all these designers, all these talented individuals, especially the game designers, like the art and the writers, like they may stay in the gaming industry, they may not. The actual game designers, the people up behind the mechanics and everything, most likely these game designers will stay in the industry, which is awesome. They'll be going to other companies, bringing their skill sets, their knowledge, their capabilities to these other companies for projects that they're currently working on or will be working on, or maybe they'll be doing independent projects. And I think we'll see, like we've already been in a renaissance anyways for tabletop gaming. I think we might see a bit of a golden age. Like, the thing is, we've been through this before and we've seen how this has played out, in the sense that Wizards of the Coast has laid off lead designers for prior editions of Dungeons and Dragons for 3rd and 4th edition respectively, and they've gone off and designed other game systems that I would say are superior. So 3rd edition, Jonathan Tweet was one of the co-lead designers for 3rd edition. I think there's like 3 of them. They worked on it together. They each wrote one of the core manuals that got released. Obviously 3rd edition had to be rebalanced a little bit and turned to 3.5, but that's neither here nor there. Internally within the company, he went over to the miniatures kind of department and worked on the design or continuation of the Dungeons and Dragons, the miniatures game, which was a pretty good, like, I want to call it excellent, but maybe that's just idealistic recollection, but it's a very good collectible miniatures game where you would get blind boxes, like booster boxes, similar to the blind boxes you can get now with models, but these ones had more models and were at a lower cost, better value, and they had a whole game rolled into them that you could. Is a warband based game. The warbands were based off of alignment, like factions based off like alignment. Was the kind of concept, and there was blind booster draft gameplay, and there's tournament support and all that sort of stuff. And it's a pretty good game. It had some issues, but it's overall a pretty good game. Axed by the company around 2011. There's still a fan community support for the game, and you can find the resources for that with a simple search for Dungeons & Dragons: The Miniatures Game. And you, like say that they got resources. It's fine. Anyways, he got axed from the company in 2008. Now Rob Heinzu he was the designer or lead designer for 4th edition, right? Now, my understanding, from what I recollect from things I read back in the day, and I can't find anything out, I'm not really going to be bothered to dig around, but my understanding is from back in the day, 4th edition wasn't the game system that he wanted to design. He wanted to design something else, but the higher-ups and upper management, they wanted a new game system that would compete with MMORPGs and the computer gaming sphere of influence that they thought was a threat to what Dungeons and Dragons was and was stealing people. They also want to steal people from that, so they thought the best idea would be to design a game system that was basically the intricacy and like kind of micro interactive micro mechanics, I'll say, why not, of like what a computer game can be, and put that into a tabletop format. And like I'm talking like stuff like when I'm talking like micro interactions, like you can just attack. You have to choose say one of 3 or 4, however many at will attacks that they'd call it, and each attack would do a certain amount of damage plus an additional effect, right? And that there was special abilities that would have activations and cooldown timers and all these sort of things that would orchestrate together to be a very gritty, crunchy, tactical based game, like more of a it was miniatures required, it was miniatures based tabletop RPG, and it was good. It was good. I played a campaign. I liked it. Like mechanically, it was fine. It got a little slow, bogged down. There's a lot of backlash on it when it came back from the consumer or the D&D fan base. Very mixed reception throughout its lifespan. It got a revamp kind of later on before 5th edition came out. It has gone through a recent renaissance from what I can gather with the OGL license debacle. People have gone back and looked at the older systems, and people that have heard about 4th edition being terrible but maybe never played it, people have experienced it and actually find that they do enjoy it because it is good and it is distinct from 5th edition. It is distinct from 3.5. Like it is its own game system mechanically. We'll get into that later. Anyways, but wasn't the game system he wanted to design. So Rob Heinsu and Jonathan Tweet, they got together after both of them were laid off in 2009 and 2008 respectively. So like they were laid off about a year apart. After they both got laid off, they decided to design their own game system. And my understanding is this is the game system that at least Heinsu had wanted to create when 4th edition was supposed to be developed. What they came up with was the 13th Age, which is now by Pelgrane Press, I believe, owns them. And my understanding, 2022, they announced that they were going to do like an update of the game system. Like it's still supported, but they were going to do an update of it and the rules, and be backwards compatible and all this. And the original designers were working on it. As a game, I would say 5th edition actually definitely cribbed a bunch of stuff I would overall from 13th Age. In terms of what seems to be common right now on social media about people that are playing Dungeons and Dragons, of this idea of people that really want cooperative storytelling, very narratively driven, reduced crunch, or maybe not as combat heavy, way more role play. 5th edition's fine, obviously, for that. Like that's what people are using. But 13th Age is a better system for that. It's way better for those sort of things. Concepts like the escalation die to increase hit rates in combat, to accelerate combat along. The fact that they have like a montage style, like cooperative storytelling segments for bridging, like when you're doing like point A to point B travel, or event things, to go from key event to let's fast track through this thing to next key event, but do it in a way that is interesting, dynamic, things to overcome, and creates a narrative and a story that's cohesive. The idea of going away from skill based to background based mechanic for character design, where the idea was that you had a background and you just had to kind of convince the game master that your background gave you an edge in or an advantage of some form in some sort of a skill check, which we have seen a background come up in 5th edition, but it's different but similar. The one unique thing, which everyone wants to be the special butterfly sort of thing, whatnot. The one unique thing was a concept in 13th Age that's like, this is your distinct thing about your character. All this sort of stuff. Even on the table, they stepped away from where 4th edition mod, you needed essentially miniatures as grid-based, very tactical combat, and you went over to what's the distance? Engage near far. Right? It was all theater of the mind for combat. You could still use miniatures and push things around, but it's all very relative. Theater of the mind. It's got a lot of great mechanics and systems that I have ripped out and put into other games that I've run. Definitely a lot of like 5th edition stuff where I just throw stuff in like that from 13th Age, and other things too, other game systems too, where it doesn't affect things mechanically or crunch wise, but it definitely helps with the storytelling, the narrative, the experience for people at the table. Anyways, they developed that. It was well received, won some awards. Very good game system. So Jonathan Tweet and Rob Hines, who obviously they didn't design the whole system on their own. They brought in like other individuals, which is Keith Baker. My understanding worked on 13th Age, and Keith Baker, if you don't know, he's the creative mind behind the Eberron campaign setting, which, once again, going way back when, Wizards of the Coast did an open invitation for people to submit their setting concepts, and they had like a cool contest sort of review process thing, and the winner would get the opportunity to fully flesh out and turn into a full campaign saying that would be fully fleshed out, supported, designed, and published. Keith Baker won that with the Eberron campaign saying, which has been part of D&D since 3.5. There's brought back and forth, brought back and fifth, like it's something that they continue to support, not super support, but has been a very distinct kind of steampunk sword and sorcery saying that if you haven't checked out, look into. And it's, for example, he had worked on the project. He was still at Wizards of the Coast, I believe, at the time. Now I don't know what Wizards of the Coast policy is on people working on different projects or sub-projects, but once again, a lot of people can be contract subcontractors. Even regarding like personal projects, a lot of these designers have a lot of great ideas that they can explore because they are beholden to Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. As soon as they're freed from that, they're going to hit the ground running. So what's the message with this? Well, they had designed game systems that I had personally liked. When they left the company, what happened? They designed another game system that I liked, right? So when these people that are currently being laid off, they leave the company, okay, they worked on a game system that you like, that involved an IP also that hopefully you like, whatnot, but they will go somewhere else and they will use their skills to design new game systems and new mechanics that you will probably like. Will it have the same IP as Dungeons & Dragons? Well, no. Dungeons & Dragons is owned by Wizards of the Coast, right? So Forgotten Realms is part of Dungeons & Dragons, owned by Wizards of the Coast. However, all they have is the intellectual property, right? The skin. That skin, if you like Forgotten Realms, you can take that skin and you can slap it onto another game system. We do it with 5th edition because that's the one that goes along with it. But I could take that and I could slap that onto the 13th Age system and run a game that's set in the Forgotten Realms, that's set in Sword Coast, that is going over to Thay or where have you, and it will run just fine, and it will be as fun as we make it, as enjoyable and understandable as people at the table understand the mechanics and system that we're using. If there's anyone that you've liked in the company, or products, let's say, that you've liked and resonated with you, follow the people that design those. Right? If they stay with the company, great. They'll work on more projects and products, and hopefully those things that come out you'll like too. But if they work on side projects, which they probably won't be allowed to if they're an employee, but if they leave and they go to do independent things or work for other companies, they will work on projects that you will probably like mechanically. If it's like a saying that you might not like as much, well, maybe check it out, maybe you don't. Once again, in terms of setting and the flavor, that's fluff, that is the skin of something, it's not the bones. Give you an idea on this is board gaming. Let's talk about roll and writes, for example. Board gaming, there's lots of different structures and styles of that games can fall into. Not thematic, like there are thematic categories they can fall into, but how the game plays, like what is the mechanical foundational kind of concept. One, for example, is roll and write. You roll dice, you get numbers, you take and assign those numbers into boxes, and you track them, and when you, depending on how the game is set, but you hit certain thresholds, and then you can transfer over, or you do, it triggers another aspect of a machine, and it's a whole convoluted machine type thing of one form or another. And that's for scoring points or to do objectives in the game, right? So you might be scoring points in an old Western shoot-up themed game. Though you might be scoring points or shots and taking off health off the bad guy that you got to defeat. But you could probably take a lot of those games. You could take mechanics, the same mechanics, and maybe you're reskinning it as a ancient Roman trading and warehouse management game, where those points are certain things that you're getting deals on off the ships, and you have to accrue certain things faster than your opponent. How the mechanics can be the exact same. The skin, the theme, is what helps sell the game. right? So the skin and the theme sells the game, the mechanics is what keeps people around to keep playing the game. Wizard of the Coast, as an entity, cannot create mechanics. It can have IPs, it can have intellectual properties, but it can't create mechanics on its own because it needs people to do that, right? And so it needs to bring in game designers to do that. If those game designers are fired, laid off, leave, quit, what have you, when they leave, they bring their skill set with them. Whatever they designed while they were there stays with the company. That's the company's now. But the company can't effectively iterate on those because they don't have the skill set as an entity. If they lay off someone and don't have a replacement, there's no one to do it. They lay them off and they have to bring in someone new to work on the next iteration of things. Well, it's going to be dependent on what that person's skill and ability is, right? But the person that you knew was competent and did produce things that you liked, they went off and done other things. So in terms of the following people thing, Mike Merles got laid off from the company. Like, there's a ton of people got laid off. Mike Merles is one person, for example, I will be following down the line to see what he does, because he has done interesting things. You know, he was like a lead design on 5th edition. He was the one that was essentially, you know, forward facing out to the community, you know, doing the questionnaires, getting the feedback as they asked the community essentially all these questions about what they want out of the new edition of the game, and taking that and understanding it and synthesizing and structuring it into what became 5th edition with the team. So he was very influential to the development of 5th edition. The reason I understand that he got shuffled off from Wizard of the Coast is there's some sort of internal debacle thing, and he you know, he did something or said something that he said something to someone that he wasn't supposed to say. So because there was an uproar, he got, I'm not saying this is why, but he goes over the Magic the Gathering side of things and no longer the face of Dungeons and Dragons. But he was behind a lot of the actual design development of 5th edition. He's been around with the company for a long time. I remember the Dragon magazines when I was a kid. I remember seeing advertisements for Monty Cook Presents Iron Lore, which was a grittier, low fantasy, like no magic sort of rebalance of the mechanics of the 3.5 like D20 system. Like, you know, they were doing things like I shouldn't say they, Mike Merles did it. Is Monty Cook Presents, because that was a publishing house, was Mike Merles created this Iron Lore and rebalanced the system and redesigned the D20 system like 3.5 to be able to exist and take on appropriate and similar level threats as like regular Dungeons and Dragons at similar level, but without having a magical component, like, you know, magic swords, sorcerers, all that sort of stuff. And, you know, so he's been doing his own thing for, like, you know, way back in the day, but he's been designing stuff for a long time and come up with some interesting things. So when he leaves, he's going to either go do something independently or team up with some other skilled designers or join another company and do something interesting that I'll want to check out. So that's what you do. You know, you can upset with the Wizard of the Coast, and that's fine. Like I say, the people that really matter are the designers, and they're leaving. They go do awesome things, and so follow them. Check out the awesome things that they do. Support them, and support those new games, and we can see a renaissance be a golden age, right? And, you know, you win, they win. Hasbro, Wizard of the Coast, they don't win in that scenario, but that's fine. If they want these people back, they'll probably be looking to bring them back on contract-based setup where we'll just give you, if you work contracts or not, but it's essentially sort of thing, we'll just give you a certain rate, and we have you on for the project until the project is done. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's till completion, blah, 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 and then you're terminated, or you're not terminated, but there's no need for a renewal. That's the sort of format I expect Wizard of the Coast will go forward for its hiring. A lot more contract and gig work stuff. I'm sure they've been doing a lot of that already. And yeah, so we'll still see these people around. It's not like they're gone forever, but they'll be doing awesome stuff. Anyways, so remember, a game system is composed of mechanics and the aesthetic, the skin, the fluff of it, right? Those things are separate entities that are layered together to make a cohesive experience that people will want to engage with. How does it usually work? Once again, the skin, the IP, the setting, that draws people in. The mechanics keeps them around. right? But that overall setting thing, that can be tossed aside. Get into like an idea about like why OGLs, open source licenses and stuff like that, like D20, are in place is there's a lot of reasons why those are designed put in place, but very loosely, one of the concepts is that when you publish a game system, people want extra resources and modules come out for it, right? But there's a fine line between some people don't really want very much to come out, and if too much comes out, they don't engage or buy it. Some people want lots of stuff, and they'll eat everything up. And then there's that in between where just wants regular stuff to remember that the game is still actively supported. So with an open game license, essentially what can happen is the company can go for a medium pace of releasing supplements like every 6 months or so for most people to engage with. So people that aren't going to buy too much stuff, if 2 supplements a year is too much, well, good thing you didn't print 4, right? But for the average medium engager, that'll be fine. For people that want more stuff, those third parties are creating those extra resources and supplements that want those that are engaging with those people that are demanding more things. So that's the extra monster manuals from like Cobalt Press, or extra adventure modules from another company. That's where that's coming from. That's their role, is they hit that plateau of saturation that helps make your system the definitive system, because there's so much stuff coming out for it. And it's not just stuff that's for your IP, Dungeons and Dragons, Forgotten Realms, Eberron, Ravenloft, your IP. There are also things that can just reskin those mechanics, right? So rather than sword and sorcery, it's space sorcery. We're doing Star Wars, right? We've done Star Wars multiple times on OGL systems. It's not sword and sorcery, it's cyberpunk and sorcery. It's Cthulhu and 1910s investigator and damsel in distress and weird monsters that are mind-shattering setting. Like, it can be reskinned, and we do see a lot of the different games out there where it's once again reskin off the OGL. By doing that, it makes your system the definitive, the de facto system that people learn and go to, and so they're most likely to pick up your books anyways, and or be playing and engaging with your content. But what that also highlights is you have the IP, but those mechanics, like say, exist separate from the skin, from the IP. And why that matters is the people that design those mechanics leave and design other mechanics and other game systems. And so you can do the exact same thing with another game system that came from Pelgrane Press, right? So that's kind of part of the reason that sort of stuff exists. One of the things that was interesting though too, like I say gave me a bad taste on 5th edition. I dropped off pretty fast with the releases. Was 5th edition was supposed to be kind of like the evergreen system, which it sounds like, as a side thing, it sounds like the 6th edition is, or D&D 1 is a 5.5 edition, or it's still whatever. But with it being an evergreen system, was that they were going to be slow on the releases, right? And at first they started out like that, but then there's popularity and buy-in, and there's opportunity for making money, and the gas pedal went down, and they started pumping out more and more releases, more and more modules, and they started going down the same route that they went with 3.5 edition, where there's just too many releases coming out, and also with licensing out the IP, the same sort of problem that TSR did, licensing out to everybody. There's too much stuff, there's oversaturation of it, requiring people either fall off with it or just engage with the aspects that they want, which is what you should be doing anyways, or just leaving entirely. Now, one last thing about D&D, like 5th edition being evergreen, and I was talking about support of systems earlier. One of the things that people forget is every system is evergreen, in the sense that those rules still exist. They are not taking those rules away. They're not sending their posse in to grab your 2nd edition Forgotten Realms setting source box, right? You still got that. You can still use that. You can still iterate on it. So as a side thing, a lot of people get caught into this thing about, is this game still supported? Oh, it's still not supported. Nothing came out. It's been 2 weeks and the company hasn't said anything. It's been 6 months and it hasn't been released. This game's dead. It's not supported. It's evergreen. It still exists. You still have all the things. If you want more stuff for it, either you can wait, or you can start designing your own things. Or just use it as it is, because you already have everything. It's evergreen. It's forever. They can't take it away. Are they going to do go around and tactically house fire everyone that still has an original beginner's box set, right? Anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. But anyways, this has gone long enough. Peace out. Have a great day.